Did you know that artificial intelligence is not just reshaping industries but also redefining how we tell stories?
Yeah, in a recent online survey, it was seen that 75% of creative people would look for some kind of AI integration to enhance their abilities to create innovative content, just like AI based storyboarding.
Yeah, and it was also seen that 60% consumers prefer interactive content. Storyboarding really transforms static narrative into immersive experiences. Hello everyone, welcome to Design Tales. I am very excited about today's topic. At the same time, I am very excited about today's guest. Meet Aditya. Aditya and me are working together in our current organization and we have been collaborating on many projects. At the same time, we are learning a lot from each other. So what amazes me about Aditya is his ability of powerful storytelling, his in-depth knowledge about design strategy, and his animation background also pushes all of us towards thinking about interactive experiences. So how are you feeling, Aditya, today to be here?
It's great to be on Design Tales. We have been talking about this for a really long time, and it's great to be together and cover this topic.
I'm really honored, Aditya. Thank you for being here today. So let's reveal today's topic.
Yes.
So in today's discussion, our spotlight will be on artificial intelligence, especially focusing upon the recent experiment conducted by Aditya. So what he did was he used Midjourney for creating storyboards for one of his projects. So now I want Aditya to share this experience with all of you and we all can learn from his experience about effective storyboarding using Gen AI. So let's get started. Should we begin, Aditya?
Let's start looking at what we'll cover today. We'll start by giving a quick introduction about storyboarding for folks who might not know storyboarding as a topic itself. From there on, we'll continue to look at how storyboarding can be effectively used in product and experience design. We'll then focus on how Gen AI tools like Midjourney, DALL-E can be used and some challenges around it. Eventually, towards the end, we'll look at some methods and I'll take you through some of the methods that we have experimented with and how we can then use those in our day-to-day storyboarding.
And not to miss, towards the end of it, Aditya is going to give us live demonstration of how we can use these tools while creating a storyboard. We can just take a very high level scenario and show you different methods in the real demo, right? So I'm very excited. So don't miss and be there with us till the end.
So just one disclaimer before we go ahead. While we are talking about storyboarding and how Gen AI can be used for storyboarding, we just want all of us to also be cautious about the ethical considerations about this. The whole world is talking about it, and we'll talk a lot more towards the end.
Yeah, but then before that, let's start with what is storyboarding really.
So yeah, what is storyboarding, right? Storyboarding as a concept has come from the filmmaking world. It is a visual sketch of a scene as imagined by the director or as described in the screenplay. And you can see that in the screen now. It's basically a frame-by-frame depiction of the entire scene. Now, personally, I've been fascinated by storyboards. Like while I was working in the animation department years ago, I used to be working closely with the storyboard artists who would actually provide these to the animation department that I was a part of. And what I've realized over a period of time is, as experienced designers, we oftentimes don't consider the entire experience that happens in the real world when we are designing individual screens. And because of that, what I feel is we should start thinking about an experience in the terms of moments and scenes rather than just describing or just designing one particular scene in the form of a screen itself.
So I think, Aditya, this is the right point where we should really talk about when we felt a need of storyboarding in the entire digital experiences, right? As Aditya mentioned, storyboarding was mostly used in films and animation. So as user-centered design was emerging and getting into a mainstream, there was a need to communicate user story in more engaging manner to be able to empathize with users, their scenarios and events. So that was the first time designers felt a need of communicating this to storyboards, and there was an introduction to storyboards in digital experiences for the first time. So as UX evolved, the demand for intricate interactions, motion and interactivity grew. Traditional wireframes and flowcharts fell short to communicate that user story. So storyboarding emerged as a solution, enabling designers to communicate through flow of interactions and illustrate those flow of interactions in more intuitive and holistic manner. So as we all are aware that we spend considerable amount of time in converting data into something tangible. For example, interactive wireframes or prototypes. And yet we are not able to communicate the entire user story through those. For example, their current situation, the smaller moments in their lives, or the expressions and emotions they have while interacting with the product. And these are the most important points to be able to influence the entire digital experience. And that's when storyboarding becomes a powerful tool to communicate those. At the same time, design is a collaborative process, right? So storyboarding really helps align your developers, product managers, and key stakeholders to one direction, and it can also help in quick buy-in from the key stakeholders. So these are the few scenarios where all the designers felt a need to go beyond just user journey maps or flow charts, and storyboarding came as a powerful tool to communicate these user stories. And this will just grow over the period of time.
That might be the exact reason why Airbnb experimented with the Project Snow White. So the Project Snow White for Airbnb was one where they brought in artists, storyboard artists who helped create the guest and host experiences, and these were converted into storyboards. Basically, the emotional moments of an Airbnb stay that are converted into a storyboard form. Now, why does Airbnb have a need to create something like storyboards, right? If you look at it, Airbnb comprises of a physical as well as a digital experience. And all of these need to be visualized. The emotions, the situation, the context, all of these that Sally mentioned earlier, these need to be visualized in the form of a story. So just imagine a situation when a guest is checking in at an Airbnb home. They are surrounded by their family, kids maybe. There might be luggage that they are carrying. They might be having keys in their pocket. Now at the same time, they have to take out a mobile and get into the app and press a few buttons using that. It becomes too overwhelming for them. The emotions, the situation, all of that cannot be translated just through mobile screen design, but you can do that through storyboard forms. So just like Airbnb, there are so many other brands which are also mixing the whole digital and physical experience together. And there is a strong need for all of them to start using storyboards and building the entire experience based on it. Now you must be wondering that storyboarding is the skill not everyone possesses, right? And that's the exact reason why storyboarding hasn't really introduced in the mainstream design process. There are other challenges as well. For example, time constraint. Storyboarding is not always prioritized when there are tight deadlines or there are certain constraints around delivery of product or project. Since this is a specialized skill, hiring a storyboard artist may not be the practical solution always. And you need to just be lucky to have a designer who also has extended skills of illustrations or storyboarding. Exactly right. That was the same thing that we were facing in our projects. So what we realized is while we wanted to create or depict a journey of a physical and a digital experience, we were not able to do that because we didn't have anyone who had the skills of storyboarding. Yeah. And it was during this time that these Gen AI tools like DALL-E, Midjourney, they started emerging. So we started to experiment with those. We started to look at how they could help us to build a storyboard. So basically, these Gen AI-based text to image generation tools help you to create frames, visual frames, and these are low-cost alternatives to a storyboarding artist. So we started to use these tools and use them to create frames, then stitch them together and eventually create a storyboard. While these Gen AI tools are helping us to build storyboards, they inherently have a challenge with themselves. Most of these tools are built for a generic purpose. They are built for artists to explore and generate images from scratch. So what happens with that is every time you are inputting a text, it imagines the whole scene by itself. Thus, you are not able to create a consistency or maintain a context from one frame to the other. A lot of times, the main problem with creating a storyboard in this case is how do you maintain character consistency all throughout. And that is what we have been facing most of the times. Yeah, but there must be some methods to create the character consistency, right? Do you want to share a few methods? Yeah, so we'll talk about the experiments that we have done. One of the methods that we experimented in the very beginning was a method which I'll talk about, but I'll caution everyone not to use it. It's a method where you put an input of a famous personality. So basically what happens is, since most of these Gen AI tools are based on data where you have images of this person in various angles, it is able to pick up on that and then create frames in a manner such that each frame has that consistency of that same person in different angles. Now, while this is not a method to be used, over a period of time, we also came up with another method. And this method was one which was inspired from the animation industry itself. So in animation, what happens is you often create a character reference sheet, and this character reference sheet created by the character designer becomes an input to the storyboard artist. So the storyboard artist refers to this character sheet and then builds upon it. I've seen this earlier in my days. What we did over here is we created a similar character sheet of the character for the storyboard. So you give an input to the Midjourney tool, you create the character in different expressions, different poses, as you can see over here, and eventually you use each of this as an input to the scene that you want to create. Maybe you would not need all of the reference as an input, but we'll make a choice of a certain scenes which will have an expression and pose of a character and then build upon that scene. So as a reference, what we have done is we have built this quick storyboard of a food delivery platform. You can see it on the screen. If you can see each of these frames, these have been built based on the character reference that we have created earlier. If you look at the first frame itself, this is of this girl ordering food while she is in a relaxed pose, sitting on a couch. And now just imagine, this is not the only scenario that might occur, right? This person can be in various different contexts. This girl might be along with the entire family. She might be ordering while at a party in her office. She might be ordering in an agitated mode as well at some times. So each of these can be also visualized, and that's the whole benefit of creating a storyboard using AI, because with the shortened amount of time, you can visualize each of these different scenarios. So if you look at it, it's not just the designing of a digital experience through a mobile touchpoint, but there's a lot that is involved beyond that. There are people who are ordering the food, and you are looking at the emotions and the physical experience of that person. You're also going beyond that, where there are other people involved in the entire journey. So there's the food delivery person who is picking up the food and delivering it at home. So what we realize is, while we design screen-based experiences, they become a lot limiting. And when you are looking at entire storyboard, it's basically the emotions, the environment. It could also be the weather that is affecting a particular experience, or it could be the physical experience of that person driving. So all of these come into picture when we are creating an entire storyboard. So let's get started with the demo. Just one thing to note before we go ahead with this is that we won't be looking at the entire journey or create an entire storyboard. We have limited time, and in this time what we'll do is, instead of building the entire storyboard, we'll use the method that we looked at earlier. So we'll use Midjourney, one of the Gen AI tools, and using that tool we'll create one frame using the character reference sheet method. I'll show you how a character was built earlier and the various poses and expressions of it, and how that becomes an input to create a scene. This will be for the same example of a food delivery platform. Now, using this method, what you will be able to do is you will be able to create multiple characters of the same kind. You will be able to create an entire storyboard using the same method, and most of it is based on that character sheet method itself. So now let's start looking at the character reference sheet method. You see over here there are two folders. There's a folder of expressions and poses, which is specifically created for that character. If you get into the expression folder, you will see this is the entire expression sheet that is created for that character. Similarly, this is an entire pose sheet that is created for that character. Now, before we go ahead, I'll quickly show you how these sheets can be created. This is what is already built. Let's say this is a reference of the character, the first reference that I started working on. This is a close-up shot of the character that is to be built. And you can see over here that there is a specific style that is mentioned. There's a detailed, this is a detail of what the environment should look like, and also based on what the subject is. So the subject over here is this girl who is in her 30s and from urban India, and she's wearing a red jacket and a grey t-shirt. All of these descriptions can be seen over here. So using this, you will create the first frame. So the way I have created over here, then you will use that to create different expressions, different poses of that same character. Let's try to build one over here itself. Now, hash imagine is the prompt which is used most often in Midjourney. It is primarily used to build anything or to build anything from scratch as an image. What you'll do over here is, since this is the first image that you have already created, you will use that as a reference. Now, I have dragged and put that image link as a reference over here. And the description that I would have would be similar to the earlier one with some minor changes made to it. So a detailed description of the style, a 2D digital animation style, as I've mentioned over here, and then a brightly lit day scene, which is the environment. Then the details of the close-up shot, the close-up front shot of a girl from urban India in her 30s. Now, what I'll change over here is she's smiling pleasantly. Instead of that, I'll change the expression itself. So let's say she is angry and shouting at someone. Okay. So the rest of the description remains the same, and let's see what we get out of this. So usually Midjourney, you will see a progress over here. It shows currently 0%. Mostly Midjourney takes about max a minute to build uh, the image, the first image that it will give out. Over here, you're seeing that it is already in progress. It's building something. And you can see it in a blurred form as of now, but it gets built as it reaches 100% over here. So what Midjourney does is, as the first reference that comes out, it shows you 4 different options for it. So now for the same input reference that I had given of that girl, you will see that there are these 4 different expressions that it has shown, and these are options available for you. So what you can do is you can choose one of these, and these are commands like upscale and variations that you can see. So you can choose the best one that you want, or you can even choose the variations that you want to keep in your reference sheet. So for now, maybe for me, the second and the third one seem the most relevant. So I'll upscale these two. So the second one and the third one. So now you can see these are the 2 upscaled versions of the same girl in in an angry expression, shouting at someone, and similarly in a subdued angry expression. So all of these will be available to you, and hence, using all of this, what gets created is this expression sheet that you can see over here. So we'll not go through each one of these expressions, but you can see how using this method itself, you could have built the entire reference for these characters, and that becomes an input for you to create the actual scene itself. So now let's look at, now that you have created your expression sheet, your pose sheet. Now in order to create your first frame, which is of the girl ordering food, you will use the same method. What you will do is you will use hash imagine, but then you will use the images that are relevant from your expressions. So let's say this one and this one. These are the 2 expressions that I want as the relevant ones. Similarly, out of poses, I'll use this one, which is a pose of a girl sitting on a couch. So I'll use these two as inputs to it. Now that you have all of these available in your folder, what you'll have to do is upload these into Midjourney. So that becomes the immediate reference for it to start using. Let's see. There are these 2 expressions which I want to upload. And similarly, I'll have to upload another pose. So I'll take this pose and upload that as a reference as well. So for the first frame that I want to build of this girl sitting on a couch, I'm using these 3 as reference. And now I'll do the same thing, hash imagine, and put all these 3 links as a reference for it. So once you have done that, you will use the prompt that you had used, the text prompt that was used earlier, and you will tweak it for the particular scene. So a 2D digital animation style remains the same, brightly lit day scene remains the same. What you want to do is you want to say uh, a close-up shot of a girl from urban India in her 30s. She is sitting on a couch and looking into a mobile phone. And You can also use this command, which is primarily to give an aspect ratio for the scene. So when you're creating a storyboard frame, you can give a specific aspect ratio in which you want to create it. So 4:3 is the aspect ratio that is mentioned over here. Now that you give this as an input, you will start seeing what gets built. Just to talk about Midjourney, Midjourney is not a free tool. You might have to get a paid license for it. There are various license packages available, and you might have to explore the right one that suits you. So this is what we have got now. You can see that there are different options that Midjourney has given you of this girl sitting on a couch looking at a mobile phone, and you can see in some cases she's not looking at the phone. There are the right ones that you can choose from here. So I'm going to upscale the first one. There's also another way in which you can further build upon this scene, because this is a close-up shot. What you might want to do is zoom out and have a scene of the entire home in which she is sitting. So let's try a zoom out 2x, which is basically a zoom out of the same close-up scene, considering that she is sitting on a couch in her home, and the rest of the scene that is surrounding gets built by Midjourney itself. So that itself becomes a setting scene for the first frame of the storyboard. So you are setting the environment in which she is as of now. She's sitting in her home on a couch in a relaxed manner and is ordering food from a mobile phone. So the way you can see over here, this is the home built around this one person. But as we said earlier, this might not be the only situation in which a person orders food, right? What this entire storyboarding using Gen AI also helps you with is you can quickly build various scenarios. So you can add another person in this, because she might be ordering along with someone. There might be the entire family present at home. So you can create that entire scene of how a group ordering affects your digital experience itself. All of these variations and scenarios can be built for that one frame itself. So while you're building that one storyboard, you have a good way in which you can build multiple options for the various scenarios in which these storyboards could be built itself. And that is also one thing which Midjourney can help you do in a speedy manner. The reason behind using that character reference sheet is the consistency. So now that this person is sitting on a sofa and ordering using a mobile phone, you can also build the same character in a different pose. When she is eating, when she is maybe reaching out to the door to get her food, which is delivered by the person. So all of these different frames in which the same character is needed to be consistent can be easily built based on the reference sheet. And hence that becomes a relevant method for storyboarding, and in fact a essential one so that you can maintain the character consistency throughout.
I think today's discussion was wonderful. We had a live demo. We also talked about entire storyboarding aspect of it. Now let's answer typical questions people ask online or otherwise around Gen AI, and we'll definitely focus on storyboarding. So as you mentioned at the beginning of today's topic, that there are certain ethical considerations for Gen AI, right? And we need to be cautious about it. So do you want to elaborate on that a bit more?
Yeah. So one point being that this is something new for the entire world, right? The world is trying to understand what ethics means in case of Gen AI itself.
Correct.
The important thing to note over here is every input, the data input that has gone into these tools like Midjourney and DALL-E has been created by someone over the period of time. So historically, this has been either the artists or people who have spent a lot of time building something as a style of their own that gets as an input into these tools. And eventually we are using this to create an output. So that is the first thing.
And without copyright.
And without copyright, right? Because there is no way of copyright defined around the Gen AI production of images.
Okay.
So that is the first thing for all of us to keep in mind. While we say that, I think we are all experimenting with it. We are all trying it out. We are seeing where best fit can emerge for these tools. The other thing is also that, and this is something that I've recently learned about, every prompt that we use to create an image, it also has certain amount of carbon emission associated with it. Earlier, the understanding was that these Gen AI models themselves are heavily carbon emitting, but basically it's also now well established, and there's a research paper on it which shows how each prompt also leads to certain amount of carbon emission, which means beyond the digital tools that we are using for it, which we generally use for any of our work, the model itself that helps you to create image from a text, because of the nature of the heavy computation that it has, is having a detrimental effect on it.
Yeah,
So that is
never
something
thought
that we
about
have
it.
to keep in mind as well.
So next question, and this is a typical question of where do you see a future of Gen AI? And now I just want to focus on storyboarding aspect or storyboarding perspective.
So if you look at it, these tools which have emerged as the text-to-image tools like Midjourney, DALL-E, and there are others as well.
Yeah.
All of these tools have emerged in the last 6 to 8 month period, and whatever they have achieved is in this time. So just imagine these are generic tools which are not specifically built for storyboarding. I'm pretty sure in the next year or so, and there are already products which are being built around storyboarding as of now as well. There'll be a really good tool which is very specific to this task or the use case of storyboarding. And I think that is the time when it will be ubiquitous. Everyone will start using it as well in their day-to-day work.
So since the time the emergence of these Gen AI, there is a question asked that will there be any threat to a certain design rules? And now we are talking in the context of illustrator or storyboarding artist role. So do you think it will be a threat for these roles?
Not at all. I think it is way far away from being a threat because it's just a tool, right? Basically, it's a tool that is helping you to create frames. You are putting in an input and it is giving you input of a text and it is giving you an output of an image. Everything beyond this, which is about, let's say, even about composition, is not taken care of by the tool. It's something that you have to imagine and give as an input. So all these skills that a storyboard artist are much beyond than just using text to create an image and then stitching it together to create a storyboard. The other important thing is also in the earlier part, we talked about how storyboarding emerged from the filmmaking world. So it's how the director, film director, or coming from a screenplay that is created, all of this becomes a starting point to create a storyboard. Now, if you're looking at it in this current form, we'll realize that a tool like Midjourney or DALL-E is a very siloed tool. You have to sit in one place and you have to create an entire storyboard by yourself.
Yeah.
So it kills the whole process of collaboration of in the filmmaking world, the director and the let's say the screenplay writer, all of them coming together along with the storyboard artist. But closer to us, even in the product design environment, it's basically the product person or the experienced designer working with the storyboard artist is what would create the actual storyboard or the real experience that they want to deliver. And
so you're saying that is more personalized experience for that particular scenario and a problem statement versus this could be a very generic kind of a journey or a user.
Exactly. While it has its own benefits where it saves time and you can create multiple scenarios and all that, but at the same time, the siloed approach of it might kill that collaboration. So all of these things are for us to keep in back of our mind and eventually create a process where it brings these tools together and brings them into our current way of working.
So all right, I think this was a great discussion. At the same time, good amount of information about how to create storyboards using these new Gen AI tools, right? And this will just evolve from here. With that, I think we will end this for today. So please press the like button, share with your friends and family or whoever needs this information. Subscribe to this channel so that you never miss an update. And at the same time, do add your comments or any questions you may have. We would be happy to answer those questions. So thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed this doing it together.
Sharing this to the whole world was also something.
Yeah. So thank you for coming. So we'll look forward to another topic, another session, another video next time. So for now, see you. Bye-bye.